And here we are, joined in the studio by two of Cilla's friends and professional TV stars, Christopher Biggins and Lionel Blair. And just strange that we're sitting talking about this.
As I heard you say yesterday morning, it was terrible. Just, I couldn't believe it. And had a terrible day yesterday. And just thinking about us, I'm sorry, making me go, but, you know, she was so wonderful. And I can't believe she's no longer here.
That's what's so hard, Chris, isn't it? When such good friends leave us and you can't imagine you'll never hear that laugh again, you'll never see them walk through a door again.
I think one just imagines that she's standing there and she's going to come and join us in a minute to talk about something. I mean, she was wonderful, and I worked with her 31 years ago, and we remained friends right up until her death. I mean, I spoke to her a week ago, and she told me she was going to Spain and that she had a little bit of arthritis, but the painkillers were working and she was much happier. And she said, let's meet in September when I get back and we'll have dinner. And then she said, why don't you and Neil come to Barbados after the pantomime? So we sort of planned things, you know.
Yeah.
And she's going to leave a huge, huge void, because she was, of course, what I think some people tend to forget, young people, that she was such a big pop star.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, that career was
TV,
extraordinary. And then she had a period where she almost semi-retired. And then she came back and took television, Saturday night television, by storm. Yeah. First of all with Surprise, Surprise, and then Blind Date. I mean, she was an iconic woman.
Absolutely.
And we all know how difficult it is for women in television. She conquered it, and conquered it like nobody's business.
She came up and did, I used to do Blackpool Night Out, you know, and she'd come up. And this is 50 years ago, so I've known her 50 years.
Sure.
And she said, when are you going home? I said, well, I have to wait till tomorrow morning. Oh, you don't have to do that. Brian's got a plane for me. And she flew me back to London in her plane.
But see, that was it, Lionel. I think today there's a lot of quite ordinary people on television, ourselves included. No, I don't mean you two, I mean us two.
Speak for yourself.
But, you know, I think when you were with her, you knew you were in the presence of a star.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But a friend, too. And
she was a star.
Yeah. And as she walked on, the public would smile because it was their friend coming on. Not just a star, she was a star.
Our Cilla.
Our Cilla.
Yeah.
Laura laughs.
Yeah.
And of course, the one I loved about Cilla, she put that accent on television. I mean, she didn't speak like that in real life. There was no Laura.
No, not
when
at
you
all.
went out for a meal, that's a Laura fun, that meal, wasn't it? You know, it was all...
Can you remember, Lionel, the first time you ever met her? Were you
yes, I was
together?
Doing a special with Bruce. And he said, I've got Cilla Black as my guest. And she was having in a spa somewhere. And we had to go to the spa to talk to her and tell her about what the television show was about and how to do this and what the sketch was going to be and everything. She was new, you know. She didn't know.
Yeah, I remember going back as far, I remember quite a lot of her show in the 60s. On the Saturday night, you had Cliff Richard, you had Lulu, or Shirley Bassey, or Petula Clark, or whatever. There was a whole range of people like that hosted their own show. And then, people won't believe this, but TV used to actually transmit pantomimes. There was a pantomime one year with her and Cliff Richard. I'm pretty sure it was Aladdin. I'm pretty sure, and she was Aladdin, I'm assuming, in all of that. And when you were in an era of 2 TV channels or 3 TV channels, you know, and not the hundreds that exist now, she was relevant to everyone.
A massive audience.
Oh, we used to get, surprise, surprise, we got over 15 million viewers. I mean, which is unheard of nowadays. Everyone's very excited over 3.
And was that the first time, Biggins, that you worked with her?
It was. I mean, I remember Alan Boyd, the executive producer of Surprise, Surprise, coming to see me in Newcastle. I was doing pantomime and saying, would I like to do this show? It was a big Saturday night show with a big star. And I was so taken aback, I said yes, but I didn't think to say who the star was. So he said to me at the end of the meeting, would you like to know who you're going to be with? And I said, yes, I would. He said, Cilla Black. And I thought, I can't believe there's Cilla Black.
Yes.
This is a young Wiltshire boy who's going to be on television with Cilla Black. And we would film next door. And I remember vividly meeting her for the first time, and it was love at first sight. And we've remained in love until yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
absolutely.
breathtaking.
I was saying that Liverpool should be the city of stars, because if you think of all the stars that came from Liverpool, from Arthur Askew, Ken Dodd, the Beatles, of course, and
Jerry Marsden, who's
going to be here, Claire
Freddie
Sweeney,
and the Dreamers,
and the one Frankie Vaughan.
Frankie Vaughan, yeah.
I think what they should do, and I don't know what the arrangements are, but I'm sure they'll do a memorial, and I think they should do it in the Catholic Church in Liverpool. I think because I think that would be so special, and I'm sure she'll be married locally.
Let me ask you about the death of her husband, Bobby. When he died, which I think was 1999 or so, and then the television career ended 2 or 3 years later. I mean, not only was her husband, this man managed her business life as well. How big a blow was it to lose Bobby? Did she ever get over that?
I think it was tremendous. To go into an empty dressing room, you know, it's awful just being on. But to have had Bobby throughout her career, suddenly he wasn't there.
I don't think she ever got over it.
I don't either.
I really don't. And I think, you know, in a way, I can see them now, both in wherever you may like to think they are, having a glass of champagne and toasting to their life together, because they were completely together.
Well, I read that they, apart from the birth of their 4 children, sadly their daughter who they lost, they never had a night apart.
No.
In their whole
No, absolutely.
marriage.
I mean, we did a tour. It was the Everly Brothers, Cilla Black, Billy J. Kramer, and Lionel Blair and his dancers. That was, you know, and Bobby was there all the time. But when we had to stop over some nights, they didn't share a room. Bobby had his own room and Cilla had hers. There was no, even though they were together. No, before they were married.
Yeah.
This was, and it was like that. But they adored each other.
We're getting a lot of reaction from people obviously watching at home. Kate says, my late grandmother used to be Cilla's housekeeper. She often told me how they used to split the housework between them. She said Cilla was a lovely lady. She'll be sadly missed. Davina says, I was a blind date contestant, and speaking on behalf of all of us, it was a privilege to meet Cilla. You will be missed. We've got more reminiscence from Chris and Lionel right after this short break, and lots more tributes to come. Keep it here. Let's get back to more Cilla Black memories. We're joined by Christopher Biggins and Lionel Blair here. Do you remember the first time you met her, Lionel?
Yeah, I think it was the show that I did with Bruce. And he said, Cilla's our guest. And she's never been a guest on one of these sort of shows. And we had to go and tell her what it was all about and everything. And we hardly talked about that because we just laughed all the time.
She was such fun, Chris, wasn't she? All her friends she was quite naughty, quite cheeky. She had a twinkle in her eye. She loved to party.
Yes.
She loved to party. I mean,
loved a glass of champagne.
And loved a glass of champagne. But she, you know, she loved. For instance, you go out for dinner, and then perhaps you go and to go to the theatre with her, and then you go out for dinner, and then you go back to give her a lift back, and then she said, "Why did we go dancing?" And suddenly it was 4 or 5 in the morning, and you know she did this with all her friends. Paul O'Grady was a terrible combination, the two of them. They used to go out all the time. They caused havoc.
And morning, Paul, if you're watching, I'm sure you must be devastated, as are Chris and Lionel, because I know you're a very good friend. He might be watching this morning. Love to you as well.
Yes, he is. I spoke
love.
to him yesterday, and he is devastated, as we all are. I mean, I think we were all in shock yesterday, because it's just something that you read about, you don't think, imagine it's real.
It's funny you said, like 72, it's young. And it is
to me.
Today.
I think so today.
It's young. Or it is to me.
And how was her health, Chris? Because I know she talked about her hearing.
Yes, she had a problem with her hearing and arthritis, and she was taking painkillers for her knees. And when I spoke to her 10 days ago, she said she was feeling much better. She said that she didn't have any pain, whether that was the painkillers were kicking in. And she seemed very jolly, funnily enough, 10 days ago. I mean, it was, you know, inspirational to hear her, because she'd gone through... This year's been quite tough for her, health-wise, I think.
And also, we talked earlier about her losing Bobby, which you both say you don't think she ever got over it. No. She was on Loose Women when she talked about him then. I think we've got that, and she got very emotional. Just shows it was never far from the surface. Have we got that one?
It's a bit bittersweet, as you say. But I remember the phone call to you, because I tried to make it better for you. And it was not long after I lost Bobby.
I know, darling. And look, all these years later, you still feel
and
it.
he's watching
doing
you, and he'll be there at that BAFTA, watching you get that BAFTA.
That was a couple of years ago.
And a proud moment for her getting... Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. It's just that I'm doing a line on that. But the thing is, you know, she did love him so much. And I remember when we did Surprise,
I'm getting tissues for you both.
I did say to her at one particular point, we were about to be introduced for the show, I said, did you ever have any other men in your life? And I was then called onto the set, and then she came running on and ignored the audience and said, no!
Oh. Yes,
and I think she had to think about it, because the whole of her life was Bobby.
Bobby, absolutely.
I mean, even if she went to the hairdressers, he would go with her.
Yeah.
And, you know, he would pay for everything, and he was just amazing.
I think we got a very interesting insight into that relationship. And I think a lot of people discovered Cilla for the first time through the ITV drama, Cilla, with Sheridan
Smith, wasn't she wonderful? You know.
But it shows you, you know, an amazing entertainer, a number of careers, the singing, the television, presenting as well. She loved showbiz, but she was a formidable business person as well. She knew her worth, Chris, didn't she?
She really did, and I think that the TV film, which I think was extraordinary to have something like that done in your own lifetime. And I think she obviously, it was approved by her, but I don't think she ever watched it, because I think she was too close to it. And certainly some of the things that happened in it were quite shocking. I mean, the moment that Bobby said, I think I'm going to pursue a singing career, and she said, no, you're not. Not if you're with me.
Yes, there's only one star.
Do you think they ever... I mean, was that anything that they ever regretted? Because obviously, if they'd have both done that, it might not have worked for them in this very strong showbiz marriage, which is unusual, as we know.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think it would have worked. I mean, you know, because I think you have to have one star and one person looking after the star, and that was what Cilla thought, and I think she realised that.
Do we have that selfie available there, taken at the airport? Do we have that?
Yeah.
Do we have...
It's a lovely picture.
I think it shows. It says a lot about Cilla, because we talk often about sometimes, you know, celebrities and stars are very nice on screen. Sometimes they're not as nice off screen. But she loved her fans, didn't she? She had time for people.
She did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she was great, and of course we're living in the age of the selfie now. And, you know, this is... I've seen this picture, which I think... There you are.
Oh, it's
there
lovely.
it is.
That was just her heading off to Spain.
Yes, that's last week. That was a week ago. Yes, and, you know, there she is. And that's probably the last selfie that she's ever had taken. I mean, you know, it's...
And that's Amy Kelly.
And actually, she looks wonderful there, Cilla.
She does.
I mean, she really does. And she's got that
fantastic
mouthful of teeth, as she always had.
I mean, she was very close to her family.
I was reading an interview in The Sun today, and the reporter asked her, if you could live your life again, would you do away with all the intrusion of showbiz and whatever? And she says, oh, no, not in the slightest. She said, I'm going shopping now, and if I'm not recognised in the shops, I'll be very disappointed. Very, very disappointed. We've got Arlene Phillips on the line now. Arlene, good morning to you.
Arlene.
Sad news.
Yes, very, very sad. Just too young, and she was so much fun. I think everyone feels it, and it's the shock of it. I think that got to everyone that knows her.
Of course. How did you know her, Arlene?
Well, it's one of the people that I've known for years and years and years. You know, because we forever bumped into each other. We did the same TV shows, and in 2001 I was doing the Royal Variety Show, and I was choreographing a piece for Andrew Lloyd Webber. And she was doing a piece from Gypsy, and she absolutely stole the show. She made headline news because she has the best legs in show business.
Yes,
they
amazing
are
legs.
Stunning, and she never lost those gorgeous legs. They stayed firm, they stayed trim, they stayed long and gorgeous. Oh. And she caused headline news, and I was working with Vinnie Jones, getting him to dance, and we thought, you know, everyone's going to want to get pictures of Vinnie surrounded by the very sexy dancers, but it was Cilla that everybody went, this is the star.
Well, Arlene, thank you very much indeed
Thank
for
you,
that
Arlene.
memory. Has she better legs than you?
No.
That's right.
I have to say,
better legs than a lot of people.
well, we did, Cilla and Gloria Hunniford and I did the Andrews sisters, and they both girls were furious that I had better legs than they did.
You have got good legs.
You've seen them, haven't
I've
you?
seen
Very
them. They're
good
very,
legs.
very
yes,
nice
thank you.
indeed.
Guys, if you were to sum her up, the phrase national treasure has been used. Is that